paid my dues, how will they pay you? When you first come in the game, they try to play you. Then you drop a couple of hits, look how they wave to you. From Marcy to Madison Square, the only thing that matters is just a matter of years. Boom. Classic Jay Z. Hello, America. Hello, world. Hello, you. It is your new best friend, Cashmere, California, and this is the Pod is Good podcast, aka the notorious PIG, episode 59. Pod is good, and all the time. If you know, you know. If you don't, keep listening. You will find out. Today, we are going to explore a world that I'll be honest, I don't know much about. I am a visitor today. I am an outsider standing through the window, peeking, trying to understand the art of growing cannabis. And so I felt the only way is to have my guy come through, my family come through. The guy that I every time I talk to him, I'm like, yeah, you just the weed chemist. You get this on another level. You know it down to the process. So who better to show us, to show you exactly how you go from seed to a plant. Let's get it going, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome my guy Jamal Howard to the podcast. What's going on, my G?
What's up, my brother?
I'm good,
Everything all
man.
right? Everything all right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming in. I've been talking to you for a minute about us doing this because this is a space that everybody's into right now, right? I mean, people have been into it long before right now, but it's taking new legs. You know what I
Right?
mean? Marijuana, cannabis is being legalized all throughout the country, probably all over the planet eventually. And so there's money to be made. There's gold in them hills, what they used to say. And so people want to know. They want to understand. When I think about it, it's like, well, it's just a plant, just grow it like any other plant. But clearly, there's a process. You might be able to grow a bed of roses, but you may not be able to grow cannabis.
It is a process. It is a process, man.
So before we get directly into you explaining the art and the process to us, first tell people a little bit of your background dealing with cannabis.
Well, my background, like most people, started off with just back in the day when I was a little younger, buying a little bit to smoke it, you know, until about uh, maybe 6 or 5 years. We'll just say five. 5 years ago,
Hmm.
um, my sister and my brother-in-law opened up a legal marijuana grow warehouse, and they had it for about a year or so, and I was in between jobs, and my sister said, hey, why don't you come work at our facility, until you find another job or whatever.
Makes sense.
I went there 5 years ago, and I'm still here, you know. This is definitely, it was an eye
Family,
opener.
family looked out though. I love to at least hear, family working together. Oftentimes they say, we can't do business together. We can't work together as black people. So to hear a family member, especially your sister, say, "Hey, come over here with us." You know what I'm saying? Let's build this thing together. I love that.
Absolutely,
Love it.
it was a great opportunity that her and my brother-in-law offered me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, I knew about buying it. Didn't know too much about making it. You
Yeah.
know, but now I got 5 years of experience in it. And I'm still considered a baby.
Right.
Five
Right.
years. I work with a cat that's just been doing it. A couple guys that's been doing it for over 20 years now.
Wow.
We call them master growers. I basically learned everything I know from these two guys
Hmm.
that's been in the industry with some pretty heavy hitters in the industry too. You know,
Wow.
my Branson and Allison were able to get him on board with us,
Nice.
and he been rocking with us. to say maybe 3 years, maybe 3 years now.
Okay.
So we're trying to take it to a whole new level.
And so for reference, um, I don't know if you again, I'm a visitor, so if I say anything that just don't make sense, just tell me. But when it comes to how many plants, like do you gauge it by how many plants or how many rooms or how square footage of harvest? I'm trying to get people to understand the level of the operation that you're involved in right now.
What do you mean by when we gauge it?
Like 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 if I was talking about a house, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, my house is 2,600 square feet, right? Or if I was saying I have a whole band, I got a 10-piece band. So it's like each
mhm.
thing you kind of give it a different criteria to let someone else know how big your particular thing is. So when it comes to cannabis, would you say like, oh yeah, we deal with 5,000 plants, or would you say we grow in a 3,000 square foot,
you
warehouse?
right. You could go both of those routes, you know. But for the most part, we go by, how many lights do you have,
Mm,
in each particular room, right? So most of our rooms we have about 72 LED lights,
wow.
um, with eight or 10 bars, right? And our rooms are all double decker. So we have plants on a bottom rack, and
Mhm.
then we have plants on a rack above them going across the room. So we probably house about 1,200 plants per room, right?
Sheesh.
And then we have two of the largest rooms in our facility that'll house about 14 and 1,500. Those are the two biggest rooms in our warehouse.
Yikes. Now
Again, they're all double decker.
is that considered that, and that's new. That I didn't know. When last time I came, it wasn't double decker.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
whole
so
new level right there,
right.
figuratively and literally.
Most like when indoor growing started, there was no double decker. It was just a big room, and it was just that room was just filled up with plants with lights above it.
Yeah.
You know, um,
Wow.
HPSs, they call HPS lights.
Hmm.
Um, and then the movement started switching towards getting LED lights. Um, and not all facilities have double deckers. Some still go with just one,
Hmm.
one deck with the LED lights. But most warehouses now they all use LED lights. I think in California is mandatory that you switch over to LED lights from the other ones that most growers would use. Those burn hotter. They burn up a lot more electricity. So LED, everything is LED now. You know.
So you don't
So
want the warmth.
no, we definitely want warmth. Warmth is good, especially in the vegetation stage.
Yeah.
Um, but the LEDs do put out less heat though. You
Hmm.
know, because with the other lights, man, in the veg state, you gotta have it about 83 degrees with 80% humidity. And you be in them rooms burning up, man.
Okay.
Sweating,
All right.
sweating, sweating, sweating. You know,
That's crazy. All right.
especially
Okay.
like
Let's,
especially in the summertime.
I can imagine, bro. And we live in Cali, so that's most of the year.
Yeah.
All right. So sorry, I went too. I was getting ahead of myself, but I did want to ask when you list, rooms of 1,200 rooms or like 14 or 1,500 plants, double decker rooms in the industry. Would that be classified as like a major facility, or is that on a lower level? Is that mid range? Like as far as like the suppliers go, how does that rank as far as how big or major of a
Well, because
product that is?
we have we have
I lost him. Hold on. I see him. He coming back. He coming back. Relax. I understand. You know what I'm saying? I get it. Sometimes it happens. You know. We got to press on. We got to press on. Hopefully, you guys are getting some information from this. You know what I mean? I guarantee it's just like any other story. Even if you're not interested in moving forward with growing cannabis, or you have no thoughts of even liking weed, I promise there's gonna be a gem in here that's applicable to everybody. Watch, just be patient. Just watch. It happens every time. Just like when we were talking to the DJ earlier, there was something about networking and building great relationships and being willing to give into supporting someone before you start asking for something. And that's a great way to build authentic relationships. I know it's going to be something like that that comes out where it's like, oh, I can apply that in other areas of my life. Oh, yeah, that's how the weed chemist approaches cultivating plants. But there's like a nugget, there's a gem of wisdom and knowledge in that I can use in my world somewhere else. So I'm waiting for Jamal to get back on. Um, he'll be back in a second. Sometimes I ain't even gonna explain it because I know y'all know. I know y'all know how it go. It's just the internet, man. We all deal with it. I think I got my guy back almost. Saw him for a second. There you go.
There you go. Having some technical difficulties, huh?
Oh, hey, it happens, bro. It happens. So,
Must have been a solar flare from the sun messing with the internet, man.
so I was saying, or you were about to answer as far as like um, the warehouse that you are responsible for. Would it be considered on a major, is it a larger level, or is that kind of like a baby one and the bigger ones have 30,000 plants per room? Like I don't know.
Well, the heavy hitters, like the ones that's been in this industry for a long time,
Yeah,
they probably have bigger facilities than ours, right? Like I said, we only been doing this for about 5 years now, right? So we're kind of still like babies in the industry, you know. But with that being said, we still have a pretty big facility, right? So like those 1,200 plants that we have in room, right? We have seven of those rooms, right? So that's pretty big, you know.
that's
That's a multi-million-dollar facility right there.
yeah.
So if we can produce what we want to produce as far as weight wise with good quality and everything like that, that's a multi-million-dollar facility, you know.
Okay.
Um, and that's
Nice.
where we're at. If I ain't gonna say we're at yet, we still got a lot of growth, a lot of things. Because it constantly changes, it constantly changes. So, but yeah, I would say, it's not, one of the biggest facilities out there,
Yeah.
but it is a pretty big facility. We
Yeah.
have people come in all the time and they take a tour of the building and they just be like, man, this facility is big, you know?
I mean, that says a lot for anybody wanting to know, um, you know, uh, the magnitude in which you and what you work under, as far as like how many plants and what your attention has to be on, and how many different directions and rooms to basically hear that you guys have well over 10,000 plants that you are growing on
Yeah,
a day to day basis. I mean,
absolutely.
that says a lot. So let's get into that. So, for somebody like me, somebody who's new to it, fresh in the game, same way as you. Like when you first start off, you're like, "Hey, let's just see where this goes." What's the beginning? How do you start? How does someone even begin this process of growing cannabis?
Well, first off, you gotta find a facility, right? Whether it's you growing at your house, in the garage, a room in your house, or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Gotta find a place to do it, right? But
yeah,
we have that already. We got a facilities, right? So we consider it a commercial grow, right? We don't do any home grows or nothing like that, right? So yeah, find out. where you want to start this process at, right? And then you got to get the equipment. You got to get the tables. You got to get the light. You got to get the air conditioning systems that you need. You
Hmm.
need to get some dehumidifiers, right? And all that stuff was the stuff that we have, of course, is a lot bigger than what you probably have like for a home or something like that, you
Hmm.
know. But yeah, so you
And
get
so,
the
so hold on. So you said earlier you were talking about sometimes you have the rooms at like 80 something degrees and 80% humidity, but then you just said some of the equipment is air conditioners and dehumidifiers. How
right.
that work, man? How that work? How you doing both?
Well, you need both, right? Because like I said, in the veg state, you want the room as humid as possible, right? Think of it like a tropical
Mm,
rainforest, right? Tropical rainforest is hot and humid damn near all year round, right?
yeah,
But those trees that you see, they're lush green, you
yeah.
know, they stay green. So that's we're trying to imitate that, right, in the veg
Uh,
state. So when plants are in veg, you want it humid. You know, you want it humid. You don't really want to go over 82, 83 degrees. You can have it about 80 degrees, but you want that humidity at least 77, 70, 78%.
hmm,
Between 77 and 80% humidity, right? And that's while it's in the veg state, which at our facility we veg the plants for about 20 21 days, 20 21 days. Okay, so that's a little bit over, well, that's about 3 weeks, right?
hmm. Is
So
that the first step? Is that the first step? The veg state?
yeah, the
Okay.
first step is the veg state. But even before that, right, like I said, you get the equipment or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, well now you gotta get the plants, right? Now at our facility, we don't start from an actual seed, right?
Hmm.
We get what's called clone.
Gotcha.
It's basically, let's say you have a mature plant, right?
Hmm.
They're pretty tall. They got a bunch of arms on them. A clone is simply you're cutting an arm off of that plant. So basically, making a
Hmm.
baby,
Yeah.
and then you plant that, and wait for that to root out. Okay, and once it roots, then you plug it into, if you're, whether you're using soil or what we use is called cocoa right now,
Hmm.
um, or they use what's called these Rockwell cubes that are made from volcanic ash.
Hmm.
Okay, so once the little baby clone roots, that's when they're ready to be planted for vegetation, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So
Okay.
even with that, right, when you have these clones, um, they're under different type of lights. They're under clone lights. It's called clone lights, right? There are less. Um, they're not as strong as the regular lights that we would use. So you have clone lights for the clones, and then once you flip it to veg, not flip it, but once you plug them and they're ready for veg state,
Hmm.
then they go under the bigger lights at a low power, right? So everything starts with a clone first. Us at our facility, we make our own clone for the
Yeah.
most part. We still reach out to get certain clones, like certain strains, probably that we don't have that we know are really popular at the moment. We'll try to get some of those,
Hmm.
and then we'll use some of those clones to make a mom plant, right? Now, what a mom plant is basically a huge plant that we cut all of our clones off of, right? So we have a separate room for the mom plants. Those plants stay in veg state the whole time. They never get flipped to bloom, right?
Wow.
And basically, for if you don't know, uh, Bloom is when the plants actually start to bud, right? It basically forms into what you see when people buy it, in a dispensary or your
Hmm.
local weed man in the city or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So,
But how do you keep it from not doing that?
okay, so you're done with your veg state, right? So like I said, ours is about 3 weeks. All right. You have to do what's called flipping the room. And all that is make the room dark for 12 hours.
Hmm.
Complete darkness. So something in that darkness, something flips inside that plant and tells it, okay, now it's time to bloom once the lights come back on. Pretty
Stop
crazy.
playing, man. Stop playing, man. That's
Look,
spooky. That's spooky. That's for what?
plant is a living organism, right? Just like us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the way we
What?
you have to treat the plants as damn near like a person from the clone
That's
stage,
so
right?
interesting.
That's when they're babies, right? You want
Yeah.
to give them all the good nutrients and everything that they need as a baby, and then you have their teen stage, right? And then you have their adult stage when they're in full bloom.
That's crazy.
So it's like taking care, at one point it's like taking care of a baby, then you're an adolescent, then you're a teenager, and then you're a full blown adult. That's how we look at it. So
So
yeah,
basically,
so
so in order to keep that, um, in order when it gets into its veg state, in order to turn it into the mother and not let it bloom, you just never shut the lights off. You don't go through that process of
right.
flipping the room.
Yeah, as long as because we do give the plants, a brief rest,
Hmm.
right? So we will have the lights go out, but just for about 4 hours
Hmm.
while it's in veg. We don't want it to run 20. You can have it running 24 hours,
Hmm.
but we give our plants a rest. So we'll turn the lights out for about 4 hours. This is for the moms and while they're in veg, you know. But yeah, if you as long as you don't let those lights go in darkness or that room go in darkness for about 10 or 12 hours or more, then you don't have to worry about it being flipped to blown. But if you
That's
let that darkness, you let that room stay dark for that long, when those lights come back on, they're gonna be flipped,
just gonna
uh, and
change.
they'll start budding out within a week or two.
So yeah, so this would be really hard to do on this level at home, right? I mean, this sounds
No,
very
not
complex.
necessarily because you won't have that many plants. You're right, like we have at our facility.
Hmm.
Um, you'll be a lot more hands on. You can control things better, with a smaller environment. Um, so it wouldn't be that much harder. The only thing is you doing all the work,
Hmm.
by yourself as opposed to having a team working with you, at a commercial facility.
Yeah,
Um, but but that's really how most growers start off, right? They
yeah.
start doing it on their own, and at
Then you
their
learn
home or
everything.
whatever, you know, basically perfecting their craft and everything, trial and error, right?
Yeah,
Learning
yeah,
what to do, what not to do. So yeah, it really wouldn't. It wouldn't. I would say doing a commercial grow is a lot harder than doing it, on your own at your house.
interesting. So is there? I'll say this, and we'll get back to the process. Just pardon me as questions come up. I'm just gonna ask them because it's
Ask
kind of
away.
kind of kind of fascinating.
Ask away.
So is there, because you're talking about how they're basically like these living organisms, which we know plants are. Um, but I've never talked about plants in like this large group dynamic or even this level, like responding to darkness. That's crazy to me. That's dope though. It's dope. Um, is there like a they talk about like herd immunity or like group thinking. Is
Hmm.
there a difference like when you is there a difference in how the plants respond and act when there's more of them or another type of strain nearby, or is there any kind of thing that they get from each other as well?
Yeah, I mean they give off, like I said, it's a living organism, so it gives off, energy. It can read the energy in the room as far as people being in there, you know. And with, as far as like interacting with each other, um,
That's crazy.
and this is what, you know, all growth facilities don't want to happen,
Hmm.
like like an outbreak of something, of a fungus or some insects that get in there that can spread, from plant to plant. Um, you might have some plants get diseases, right?
Yeah.
And that plant that has a disease, it can affect the plants around it, because for the most part, they're in close proximity, so their leaves are always touching each other and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely can happen.
So they kind of give each other energy and things, and they can recognize the room.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, my bad. So back to the art. So now we're at the process. We're in the veg state. I know the direction of kind of trying to create a mother and or trying to get one to go into adulthood. Continue there. Let's go down the route of the budding. So, actually, you said something about nutrients, like when they're a baby. Like, go into that a little bit, like the nutrients and things that you have to do differently when they're babies before they go into the
Yeah,
adolescence.
so you know, of course, again, it's a plant, right? So they need food, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning, of course, like I said, when they're a clone, most plants, all plants, right, they eat through their roots eventually, right? But
Hmm.
when they're a clone, they don't have roots yet, right? So
Right.
of course they eat through photosynthesis, right? They eat through their leaves,
Yeah.
right? So for the most part, they're just getting their food from the lights. Um, and they're in a dome, right? They're in an enclosed dome because like I said, it needs a lot of humidity,
Hmm.
right? So they're not exposed to the open atmosphere yet until they get clones and become strong enough that you can take the dome off, right?
Hmm.
But while they're in clone state, they're basically feeding and eating through photosynthesis. And then once they start to get roots, right, we're feeding them what's called veg food. And you can feed a plant water, of course, right? But we feed them the foods that plants actually need, right? Which is nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. Those are like the three main nutrients that a plant needs
Hmm.
to grow and be strong,
Yeah.
to fight off fungus and disease and stuff like that. So the veg food, it all has that stuff in there, right?
Yeah.
So once they have roots, they'll start eating and drinking from the roots, and this whole time they're getting bigger, they're getting taller, they're getting stronger, right? So once they're at the size that we like I said, we'll flip the room and we'll cross over into the bloom stage.
Hmm.
And then we switch the whole program. Instead of feeding it veg food, now we're feeding it bloom food.
Hmm.
Okay, higher dosages, probably different. I don't want to say different. For the most part, it's some of the same ingredients as veg food,
Hmm.
except um, we had, so we feed, for the most part, we feed salts. salt-based food, right?
Hmm.
Get a big trash can or barrel or whatever, and fill it up with water, um, and then you dump the salts along with the other stuff that we use to make the food. Then it goes to our feeding system and everything like that, and it feeds the plant.
But when you
Uh,
say salt, is it literally salt? Is there a specific type of salt? Like what when you say we feed it salt, what does that mean?
not like table salt, no, not like the salt that we eat,
Yeah.
not like that. But like I said, they need nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus.
Right.
That comes in a salt-based solution that we
Mm.
just mix into water, and it dissolves, right? And then we put it in our feeding system, and that'll feed the plants. So definitely ain't salts that we should be inhaling, you know, even though it is organic. But yeah, that's what I mean by the salt based system. It comes in a big bag, that weighs 25 or 50 pounds,
Jeez.
right?
That's a big jump, 25 to 50 pound bag.
Yeah. Well, depending on what company salt you're using, they might either come in a 25-pound bag or they might come in
Mm.
just a 50-pound bag. But
Got you.
we don't really go any heavier than that
Yeah.
because we have a specific amount that we have to mix with the water, right,
Hmm.
to get the proper output.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, in veg we feed it veg food. Once it's in bloom, we feed it bloom food, and then towards the end of the cycle, right? This whole process from veg to bloom, right, till it's ready to chop.
Hmm.
Indoor growing, it takes about 9 weeks approximately.
Hmm.
Some strains will take a little bit longer, 10 or 11 weeks, right? But for the most part, all the strains we use, they'll be ready to chop in 9 weeks, right?
And how many strains do you guys work with?
Ooh. Uh,
Many. Made you rub your face. That was-
we, I mean, we probably have anywhere from 10 to 20 strains right
Wow.
now. But it's only because we're trying to find the best one
Hmm.
that fits our system that'll give us the maximum, yieldage
Yeah.
that looks good, and stuff like that. So you got to go through a lot of strains to find those winners and those hitters,
Hmm.
you know. Um, we definitely have one main strain that's like one of our go-tos. It's called Gelati. Um,
Hmm.
we've been using that one for years now. It's always a good seller. Has a good smell to it, good color, and everything like that. But yeah, for the most part, we have anywhere from 10 to 20 strains that we are trying to develop.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so yeah, just this last part when so it's 9 week process, right?
Right.
You have the veg food while it's in veg, and then you flip it to bloom, and you're feeding it bloom food. Towards the end of that cycle, let's say we start doing this about 10 to 15 days before we're about to chop the plants, right?
Yeah.
We start what's called the flushing process.
Hmm.
So we stop feeding it the bloom food, and now we're just feeding it straight water, right? Which is mainly what's called RO water, which stands for reverse osmosis water. It's basically filtered water, you know. So we flush out the plants for a good 10 to 15 days with that flush water right before we chop the plant, right? And the flush is basically just flushing out all those nutrients, um, trying to get the bud a little bit more dense. And we like to use. damn near ice cold water. So we'll probably have it between anywhere between 60 to 64 degrees, and that's good for bringing out color, the color in the weed, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people want to buy weed that's purple, super purple, and all that stuff, you know. So flushing it with ice cold water kind of brings out that color a little bit more towards the end stage of the harvest.
And when you say flush, like how I'm trying to understand how you flushing a plant. Do you mean like in that water system now there's this cold water going through it? Do you literally mean
Yeah,
you
it's
pull
just
it out the root out the dirt and you flood like
no. It's we don't pull it. We don't pull the plant out. We're just basically what you said. We're just instead of feeding it with the that bloom food, now we're just feeding it water,
got it.
straight water. Just now you can either at our facility we have automated systems that feed our plants, right? But for the most part, you can still hand water. You know, like you would do at your house, right, with a water hose or something like that.
Gotcha.
Um, you
Gotcha.
can hand water it. You can also do that throughout the bloom process too. Um, in fact, we do that a lot because even though we have an automated system, it doesn't always function properly, right? So some plants will be lighter than other plants, so we have to go thoroughly check the room thoroughly and find those light plants, and we'll hand water it so that we can catch it back up or something like that. Um,
And you noted that you guys use cold water. Why cold water?
Cold water is good for getting the buds kind of dense,
Hmm,
and bringing out the color, bringing out the purple
interesting.
in the weed.
Interesting.
I mean, you can use room temperature water or whatever. You don't want it really. You don't want it like warm at all. You'd rather have it cold. Even when feeding it, the veg food, we really don't want it to be above 74 degrees. For the most part. Uh, but when it's flushing, you really want it cold.
Now, do you know if this translates to like any other plant harvest? Like if I use cold water, like will tomatoes be a little more red or roses be a little more red or you know what I'm saying? Like does it translate over or is this
It,
like
it,
specific?
I'm pretty sure it could. I don't know that to give you a definitive yes,
Right.
but for the most part, it's just like growing other type of plants like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if
Kind
you're
of similar to the same process and everything.
yeah. So if you are dealing with 10 to 20 different strands. I'm assuming because, like you talked about, these are all living things. So, are there different behaviors to the level that you have to use different lighting or different temperatures or other do a lot of things change from strand to strand or like you said earlier do you guys just kind of choose strands that kind of work well with each other with the way that you guys treat the
Yeah. So, um, like I said, because it's a commercial grow, right? Normally, like if you were growing at home, you can be more specific in that because different strains definitely react to different, atmospheres, whether it be the lights, temperature in the room, um, 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 lights, temperature, um, what you feed it, um, and how high of a dosage it is, and everything like that. But because we have it's in some rooms we can probably have about um, 7 or 8 different strains in that room. right? You definitely gonna get. They're gonna look different, because one particular strain might be sensitive to light
Hmm.
that you have the light set at, but the table right across from it, the plants are flourishing. They love the light. You
Yeah.
know, that's kind of like the issue that you get into when you have a bunch of strains, in a room as opposed to just one or two, where exactly, okay, we need to set it to this, we need to do that, you know, we're gonna get the best harvest out of this plant. But when you have a bunch of different strains in there, it's a lot of problem solving, right? That you
Yeah.
have to do within that to get this harvest to be good, because like I said, plants react differently to certain circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, some plant might not like the lights being this high. Some plants might like the light being lower.
Hmm.
Um, some plants might react differently to the food that you're feeding it. So it's a lot of different variables
Yeah.
that goes into it. But for the most part, we make it work. You know.
Yeah. It as you say it, it's like this like duh in my head is like ringing off because it's almost like if I had a garden and in the garden I had corn and cucumbers and watermelon and romaine and beets or whatever. It's like each of those things is going to be a little different.
Yeah.
Not all, or even like garden of flowers. It's like they're not all going to respond exactly the same. Each one kind of has, could have its own temperament or differences with the same exact treatment, right?
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Same
Gotcha.
thing. Same thing with us
Yeah.
in growing, marijuana plants. And because it's so many, like you don't have like pure strains of stuff anymore. Everything is crossbred
Mm,
for the most part now. Something is crossed with this, something the other one is crossed with this. Some of them might have three or four different strains in it, all
yeah.
combined.
Yeah.
So it's you don't really get just a pure strain anymore. You know, as
That's true.
far as like for the most part, all of it is still, indica and sativa,
Hmm.
but you don't really get just a straight indica or a straight sativa anymore. Everything is crossbred. Everything is crossbred now.
It's like dogs. It's like it's hard to find full breed of dogs sometimes. It's like depending that breed because they done crossed so many and made it this with this to try to create this toy version and this more aggressive version and this more docile version. And next thing you know, you're like, where the full breeds at? not not those cost, a lot of money because they so rare. That makes sense.
Well, some people still have them, but they not. It's so exclusive now. They not giving it up.
Hmm.
Like the main strain that everybody loves that really set the weed industry off was is Kush. It's called OG, Original Kush, right?
Yeah.
You cannot really find an original OG Kush anymore. Some people have it, but it's like it's considered exclusive now because they started crossbreeding it with other strains and everything just got mixed up. So it's hard to find like an original Kush strain that tastes and smells, that looks like the old original Kush.
Hmm.
It's out there. I ain't saying that the
A lot of
strain is completely dead, but everything has been crossbred so much now. You know,
And so if you were someone who had a mother plant of OG Kush and you kept, you know, taking from that to create your new, what'd you call them?
clones.
Clones. Till you get your clones from your mother plant. If you had a Kush plant, even though you're crossbreeding those clones with others, why would you why would you not maintain a mother plant or a grouping of mother plants at all times to make sure you always had the original?
Well, that's the thing. Some people they still do have that. You know, they have the original genetics of it and everything. You know, they just not giving it out to other people.
Hmm.
You know, because it's like I said, at this point, it's considered an exclusive. If you got that, if you got something that's even close to original Kush right now, you kind of got gold. You know,
Wow,
but in the weed industry, man, it's kind of real cutthroat. You know, so
I could imagine.
um,
Too much money.
yeah,
Too much money to be made.
like even just getting the information, like the stuff that I've learned so far from the guy that I was talking about earlier, the guy that's been doing this for over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
You won't really find too many guys like him that are willing to give you all the knowledge that he has
Hmm.
in the industry, you know.
They don't
And
want
we
to.
were,
You don't want to teach your competition.
yeah, when we were fortunate enough that he was just real, real nice dude, real open, and he's working with us now, so it's like, why not teach him this,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
benefiting from it too, so he wants us to damn near be like him with the knowledge and everything that it takes to actually be successful in this industry, you know. He's
Yeah.
been very successful in this industry, with a lot of knowledge, real thorough. But like I say, even him, he's still learning new stuff to this day because it changes so much. This
Hmm.
industry changes like crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just want to say I'm thankful for that, for him
Yeah.
giving us that
That's,
knowledge.
yeah. Getting that wisdom and somebody kind of helping you to skip over hurdles and challenges that they already dealt with, so now you don't got to deal with them. That's always huge. That's always huge. I can imagine that being a great benefit to the overall process, um, and and the end, the ending product.
Hmm.
Speaking of the ending product, so I need to understand what is trash weed. And how do you get trash weed? Does that come from that first clone was from a bad plant, or is it the process and they didn't do the right things and give the right nutrients? And how do you get trash weed? I'm trying to understand what is. I've been hearing people say, "Are you smoking that Reggie?" It's like, number one, who is Reggie, and how did he get the how did he get awarded the trash weed name? But what is trash weed?
Trash weed. Well, Reggie is basically oregano. You know what oregano is, right?
Oh, that's where that comes from.
Yeah, he's smoking that
Got
Reggie.
got it. Don't at me.
Somebody that bamboozled you.
Okay, I didn't know, y'all. Don't at me. I didn't know. Relax. Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, trash trash weed could have a lot of different factors in it. Just where you grow it at, right?
Hmm.
You always probably hear like Cali always has the best weed,
Yeah.
but it's because of our climate,
Mm,
right? Like you go down south or back east or something, I always hear that the weed isn't that good out there, you know.
okay.
Um, but that plays a factor, right, where you're growing it at, right?
Hmm.
And then you kind of touched on it earlier. Um, when you have plants that are in the clone stage, right, it's very important that you don't do anything to um, how can I put this? Stress the plant out,
Huh.
right? Because if a plant has a problem, while it's in the clone stage is going to show up in the bloom stage, right? What you want is when it's in the from clone till it's a teen till it's a bloom stage. You don't want nothing to go wrong because
Mm.
depending on what goes wrong, it can definitely mess your harvest up to where you have some trash weed or some boof, as some people call it, right?
Oof, I ain't heard of that one.
Yeah. So it's very important, like when you have these clones,
Uh-huh.
that you try to take the utmost care of them as best as possible without any hiccups. Now you're gonna have hiccups, nothing goes perfect every time,
Yeah,
but you can limit those as best as you can. That'll provide you a better outcome.
yeah, that makes sense.
So, like when I say by preventing that is like having dry outs, right? And that basically means that the clone that's in we put them in these little uh we put them in these what's called Rockwell cubes
Hmm.
that I talked about earlier. They're about this big,
Yeah.
um like saying this big and thick,
Wow.
and they can dry out, right? if you don't if you don't feed them when they're light. So if,
Hmm.
if the plant dries out, it'll do what's called wilt, and it's basically just it's a plant that's on the verge of dying. So the leaves will be down. It'll look real sad. You know, you basically just stress that plant out when you let it dry out. So that's the main
Mm.
thing you don't want is dry outs, especially while they're in the clone stage. Um,
So,
and
so
then
real quick, because I think you're speaking to what in the chat, Jetty Taylor said, how do you know which plants need a lot of light and which ones don't? So it sounds like there's a certain eye test that you guys have like during the process, but is there also certain strands that maybe I guess you spoke to that earlier, certain strands that need more light than others?
yeah, so throughout this, even through veg, and going into bloom, you bump the light power up, every couple days, right?
Hmm.
So with LED lights, it goes by percent, right? So when we first plan a room, we'll probably have it at about, depending on what what type of brand lights there are, because we use a couple different ones.
Hmm.
For the most part, we'll either start off like at 10% or something like that,
Yeah.
and then after that, every few days, you start to bump the lights up, right?
Mm.
So you bump the lights up, and then you come back the next day and you see how that plant reacted to that upping of the light. Is the plant still perked up and look happy, or is it looking sad now? You know, if it's looking sad, then okay, it can't take this much power right now. Let me bump the lights back down. So the
Wow.
eye test will definitely tell you if the plant is liking, the light or not.
Wow.
So yes, but you have to wait a day, right? Well, not even a day. Sometimes you can bump it up like early in the morning and come back later in that afternoon, and you can see, okay, the plant looks sad.
Wow.
Okay,
The
it must
reaction
be.
is like that immediate.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Wow.
So you could tell, okay, they don't like this light power right now. Let me take it back down till they get a little bit stronger or a
Hmm.
little bit taller or something like that. So that's basically how you can tell, which plants um like, you know, certain amount of the power of the light
Yeah.
and everything like that.
Yeah. That's interesting. You had me thinking when you brought up um, something a moment ago when we were talking about the you were saying how they say Cali has the best weed, and a lot of it is because of the climate. And earlier you said you're almost trying to recreate the rainforest during those earlier processes. So, could you? Is there an argument, or do you know if a place like Hawaii that has all this lush greenery, that has you know um, these plants that have this really deep color and this great temperature and weather, would you argue that you can have great weed from Hawaii?
Yeah, you absolutely could.
Hmm.
Um,
I didn't realize it was that, like, especially when you started out with like all the controlling the rooms and humidifiers and dehumidifiers and heaters, and like I thought that the space, especially when you're growing inside, that it was so controlled that it almost, in so many words, to the best of a guarantee that you could have, guarantee like a similar product anywhere, because if you got the same humidifiers, dehumidifiers, and all of that, that you would somehow be able to, you know what I mean, have the same exact product. But it's interesting to hear that the outside environment still will affect how that plant produces.
yeah, even though it is indoor grow, right? Um, the outside atmosphere will affect um, your indoor grow to a
Hmm.
certain extent. You know, especially like if it's humidity outside or it's not humidity outside. You know, if it's a dry day or something like that, that could affect, especially our rooms, because some of our rooms are vented. Uh, you know, so we can pull in outside air
Hmm.
from the outside atmosphere if we want to.
Yeah.
You know, or we can vent it out. Um, especially when you're drying the weed. Um,
Hmm.
the outside atmosphere can definitely have a big effect
Yeah.
on the process and everything like that. So, but yeah, for the most part, like you said with Hawaii, because you know everything started out with outside growing first
Hmm.
before
Yeah.
everything moved indoor.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so atmospheres and climates like Hawaii, California. Actually, I've always been told the best weed comes from Afghanistan. You know, because it's so hot and humid over there. You know, just again, just like the rainforest,
Yeah.
humidity is a good thing, especially in veg. Now, when you go to bloom, humidity can work against you. You don't really want high humidity once you're in bloom. You
Gotcha.
actually want it. You want it low. You want the humidity about 65 to 70%. If you can keep it there, you don't want high humidity while it's in bloom. And the reason for that is it'll start to develop what's called PM, which is called powdery mildew.
Hmm.
Right? It basically looks like best I can describe it is like a white kind of patchy fungus that'll start growing right on the leaves. That's where you normally first see it at is on the leaves,
Wow.
and it'll get on the stem of the plant, and eventually it actually get on the bud of the plant, right?
Sheesh.
So that's one thing that you don't want, and
Yeah.
high humidity, deep in the bloom will cause that. So you don't want the humidity too high when you're in bloom,
Just in veg.
just in veg, and
Uh,
and as a clone and veg, and in the mom room, you can have it pretty humid in there.
Real quick in the chat, Rooted Ray said, raise the nutrient feed strength. Raise the nutrient feed strength as you raise the light intensity.
Right. So he's basically saying normally when you up the lights, you up the dosage, like he says, the nutrient feed strength, right?
Hmm.
So, how can I describe that? Um,
And first, which phase is that? That's the veg phase that he's speaking about, or bloom?
That's normally in bloom. For us, we kind of keep our nutrient strength the same
Hmm,
while it's veg. Even though we are bumping up the lights, we don't really up the strength. But in bloom, you have to up the strength as you bump up the lights. Right.
gotcha.
Eventually, what you would like is for your room for the light strength to be at 100%. Right.
Hmm,
That's the LED full blast.
yeah.
Right. And while you're slowly bumping up the lights, you want to raise the food strength of the food that you're feeding it.
Hmm.
I don't want to really break it down because it'll be confusing,
But I kind of get
but
it
as
from a general
food strength.
standpoint. It's almost like you're saying, the lights. There's more energy. There's more power being put pressed down on them. So maybe they need more sustenance to endure that without it, breaking them down. In so
Right.
many words, right?
Yeah.
Got you.
As a plant, it, gets going through its bloom cycle. You got week one, week two, week three.
Yeah.
Um, it's gonna get taller. It's gonna get stronger, right? It's gonna push out more roots. Um, so you need to up the strength of the food that you're feeding it also
Hmm.
to go along with the bumping up of the lights.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all this is to get the maximum amount out of that plant, right? You want that plant to be heavy by the time you chop that thing down,
Hmm.
right? Because we're dealing with weight. The more weight we have, the more we'll have to sell, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. I hear you, Rooted Ray. He know what he's talking about. He agrees with the weed chemist. Exactly. It's the
oh
metabolism.
yeah, you see his name, Rooted Way,
Yeah.
Rooted Way.
Yeah.
So he must be in the field too, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, you know what you're doing. So I know we established that you are working with, well over 10,000 plants. Rooted Ray, if you could tell us, if you don't mind, if you are involved professionally, which it does sound like it, what do you do? How many plants are you over? Do you agree with my weed chemist over here? Is there anything that you do differently? Or I keep saying strands and strains. Which one is it? Strands or strains?
Straight,
Strains. My bad.
straight, yeah.
Hey, forgive me. I know
Nah,
not what I
you ain't got nothing to apologize for. But I,
Yeah.
I, I
What
can
strains do
speak
you work
on one
with, right?
question you asked him. For the most part, a lot of people kind of do grow. With slight differences in what people do.
Mm-hmm.
The basics are pretty much the same. When you are, harvesting, like you said, when you bump up the lights, you bump up the food and
Yeah.
everything like that. You
Hmm.
know, but certain people they might they might only bump up the lights, 1% or 2% or something like that, as opposed to some other people might bump it up 5%, or something like that. You don't want to go too drastic, like bumping it up 30 to 40%, especially too early,
Yeah.
because like I said, the main thing you don't want to stress the plant out. When
Yeah.
you start stressing the plant out, that's when you're gonna have problems. And one of the main problem is, you know, of course, you don't want the plant to start seeding, developing seeds and stuff like that. So that can happen through a bunch of different ways. But that's one
No
of the
seeds, no stems, no sticks.
no seeds, man. People will not buy the product if well they'll still buy it, but you're gonna have to sell it at a lower price
Yeah. Yeah.
than what you normally would if you know that there's seeds and they see that there's seeds in the product.
Yeah.
Um, you're gonna mess up your numbers a lot.
All
You
right.
know.
So for someone who's never smoked anything, actually, I did smoke hookah with my wife one date night, and I knew she liked it, so we tried it to. I tried it with her, and that was that. But what is the experience difference in quality Cali weed or even Kush back when it was, thriving more, and Reggie, or what'd you call it? What was the other name?
Boof.
Booth. Booth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good weed and booth. What does someone go through when they go, oh yeah, I could tell this is that
Well,
ranch. This that
well,
booth.
right off the back, the two main things is what it looks like and how it smells. Right.
Hmm.
You can look at it, and see. Okay, this don't look like some good stuff right here.
Hmm.
Right. Then you go to smell it, and if it don't have that smell, or if it don't smell good at all, 1,500 plants. The chemist is on
I
point.
appreciate that, Rudy Ray.
Appreciate you, brother.
Uh,
Um,
lead grower of urban roots in Sacramento, 1,500 plants,
yeah.
boutique
So
craft. This is on
he's
point.
considered a master, what's called a master grower, if he's the
Respect.
lead grower. So I'm not a master grower right now, but I know a little something. But yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like he's a master grower, so he probably been doing this for a while. Um, yeah,
That's dope. Well, he
1,500
say you on
plants.
point, so don't be modest. Don't you ain't gotta be modest. He say you on point. So Rudy Ray is, he giving you the right on. So we with that. Appreciate that, Ray.
But yeah, right off the back, smell and look, right? Um, and then smoking wise, it won't taste good,
Hmm.
or the high that you get from it, either you won't get high at all, or it won't last long, it'll wear off. But real bad weed, back in the day, it used to give you a headache if it was considered, that Reggie, or, you know, just a bad quality of weed. I don't know if I ever experienced getting a headache from smoking when I used to smoke. I don't even smoke anymore. But
Hmm.
but yeah, some bad stuff used to give you a headache,
Wow.
when you smoked it. So um
That's, that's different. Um, Jetty asks, does it burn differently? I think she's talking about booth and the good Cali green.
yeah, it definitely probably does. Um Me personally, I don't think that I've had too many bad batches back when I was smoking, of some bad stuff, and I probably didn't even pay attention to how it burned.
Hmm.
But it probably does burn differently. Might burn up faster or slower.
Hmm.
Um,
I've heard that with like cigars, like a good cigar is supposed to burn slower.
right.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
but but with that could just be what you rolling it with. Some people use papers. Some people
Mm,
use backwoods.
yeah.
Um, So depending on that can also determine if it'll burn slower or not. Also, how tight you pack it, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I think it definitely can. I'm not too sure about it again because I never really paid attention to it, but I'm pretty sure it's definitely a possibility that it could burn differently.
So it sounds like as we kind of recap, in the beginning, you really got to focus on the environment, right? Where are you going to do this? Is it going to be commercial at your house? Make sure you have a place that it sounds like that you can control. You can control the temperature, the humidity, the light, the energy, because all those things are going to affect the product. And then from there, you have your stages. You're starting with seeds or you're starting with a clone. You kind of know the direction that you're going to go from the clone process to the veg process to the bloom process. Are you doing a mother? Or are you going to get clones from somewhere else? But
Right.
knowing that is a good way to kind of I guess, begin the trajectory. And then along the way, knowing the nutrients, knowing the light, knowing how to do the eye test to make sure that the plant is responding properly and you're going in the right direction, because you don't want to stress the plant out and end up with that boof. We don't want that. And ultimately, it blooms. We don't have any issues. We control the humidity properly, and then that bloom phase, you want the humidity a little lower, whereas in your veg and your clone phase, you need a little higher, closer to that 80 range. And you come down. I got you. I got you.
Oh, you right on the money, man. You
And then
right on the money.
and then it's time to cut because we want good weight so we can we can make that money. Or you can enjoy it, depending on what you're doing. I don't know which direction you're going. Maybe you sell a little, enjoy a little, but that sounds like the process we've learned.
So yeah, and I just want to add on to it, right? So in the process of chopping, right? You got your chop day, right? So you
Yeah.
that's when you go in and you basically just chopping all the plants, right? And you putting them in what's called a dry room, right? Most commercial facilities all have dry rooms, right? Now, when you're doing this process, right? A lot of people don't know this, so they probably do. But when you dry a plant, you hang it upside down. Okay, so we got a room with a bunch of racks in there, you know, and we put the plants on a hook, and then we put that hook on a rack, and it's hanging upside down.
Wow.
And you have to do that. Damn, how long is that? It's about five, five or so more days between. I want to say between 5 and 8. You know, for the drying process, right?
Yeah.
And in this process, you don't want it to dry out too much, right? To where it's crispy and stuff like that.
Mm,
Because you can dry it out too much. You don't want to dry it out too much. But yeah, it goes through the dry phase, and then once that's done, then it's ready to be what's called trimmed up. And that's basically trimming is basically getting it down to the final process to what you see in a dispensary or whoever's selling you weed or whatever. Just the nice bud that's clean and everything like that. You basically just chopping off the old leaves and everything like that, making it look pretty, basically.
gotcha.
So you
Time to
got the
market.
dry stage, then you got the trim stage,
Yeah.
and then it's ready to be sold. And even after it's sold, it's still supposed to go through what's called a curing process. Um, um, we we really don't do the curing process because our stuff sells. Like soon as we trim it up and bag it up, our stuff is out the door.
Wow.
So it's kind of up to the people that's buying it to cure it, and that's basically like um, airing it out, getting some fresh air into the bag because you
Mm,
want to bring out what's called the nose. That's the smell of the weed. You want to bring that out so that it's nice and smells good. Because that'll be a determining factor in selling it. Also, like I said, people want to smell it, see how it smells, see how it looks, and everything like that.
yeah.
So it goes through a curing process where you're burping the bag. That's like I said, that's opening the bag up, letting fresh air in. Then you can close it up. Then you're gonna open it back up again,
Hmm.
burp it again, let some more fresh air in. You
Wow.
know,
Wow. I feel like now I want to get a wine chemist on. Like I almost feel like if I heard someone who's over a winery, dealing with Chardonnay grapes or whatever, and they're going through the process throughout the year and how they tend to the plant, how they probably don't want to stress the plant, and how at the end there are nodes, on the nodes that they look for. There's a
Yeah,
tasting experience that
probably
they're
is.
looking for. There's probably a lot of similarity in those two because essentially they're both dealing with plants that are later consumed in one way or the other, right? Huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh?
And probably definitely uh, they go through a lot of similar some of the similar processes that we go through.
Yeah.
You know,
Now you
um,
did just say I don't smoke anymore, and then I feel like I see smoke coming out your nose.
it's not weed though.
Oh! You don't smoke weed? Okay, got you.
Yeah, that,
I got you.
that's like a handheld hookah.
Ah,
Yeah,
understood. Understood.
my eyes are just low because I got low eyes. That's all.
That's all. I know the man well. I know y'all probably think, yeah, he do smoke. Nah, he just worked all day, and he was gracious enough to give us the last hour or so of his time and teach us a little bit of something. So for those that were just wanted to inquire and wanted to understand the process, you got a chance to learn something. For those that want to embark upon the process, for those that are already in the process, and maybe you just wanted to do your own checks and balances and see if you was doing the right thing. You're talking to someone who is in charge or part of the team that is in charge of tens of thousands, over 10,000 plants on a daily basis of 10 to 20 strains.
There you go. You
I
got it.
think about it. and man, when you said that the rooms are some of the rooms are double decker, that's crazy to me. That's just especially because I've seen
Yeah,
the facility.
I'm gonna send you a picture of it,
Yo,
so
I
you can
got
see
I
how
got
it looks. I wish I could have sent you one before we jumped on. I don't know if you could put up images,
yeah, I would have put it up.
but yeah,
Yeah, maybe we'll have you back, man. We'll chop it up. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more of either that process or another angle of this conversation that should be had because it's an interesting topic. I think people are interested in it, whether they're involved, up close or even just from a distance. Maybe they just, love the product and they want to know how is it before it it's almost like Food Network, right? Like not everybody needs to necessarily cook like Bobby Flay, but they want to understand the thought process and how he builds flavors and how he
mhm.
approaches each nuance of a dish that he's creating. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing for people that love cannabis. So I think it's a dope conversation, bro.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people that love cannabis, so there's a lot,
Right,
and
far
I'm
more
pretty
than love
sure,
far more than
and
love Bobby Flay. So
yeah, and unless you are like me, directly in the industry where you're growing it, you know, a lot of people, most people don't know the ins and out in the background behind the product that you are, you know,
yeah,
puffing on, that you
right,
love so much. You
right.
know, they just know, go to my local dispensary. Okay, that smells good. That looks good. Oh, this strain is good. Let me get that. You know,
That
but
actually
it's
blew my mind when you said that. I didn't know that people looked at weed. I thought people just smelled weed.
nah, man.
I did. I did not think that weed. When you said they started cutting it up to make it look pretty, I'm like, wow, people look at it. I had no clue, bro. No clue.
Yeah, the way it looks will really determine if you gonna sell that product or not.
Wow.
Because some people, especially people that either own dispensaries or they work at a distribution warehouse or something, the look, it gotta look right. If
Yeah.
it don't look good, they ain't gonna even attempt to smell it. If it don't even look good to them off the back,
That's
they just see the bag and like, nah, I don't know about that. Let me see what else you got. You
hmm.
know, so and it
Wow.
changes. It constantly, the industry constantly changes. Like every few, I ain't gonna say every few months, but yeah, almost every few months. Some people, like I said, at one point, everybody wanted purple weed. You know, your weed gotta have purple in it. You
Hmm.
know, and this is before even smoking it or smelling it.
Wow.
because you could have this nice green bag of weed right here, and it could be some of the most fire stuff that you gonna smoke or your customers gonna smoke.
Yeah.
But because it don't have that purple in it, they won't even buy it.
Wow.
You know, so it's it's they get real particular. They get
Yeah.
real particular,
Connoisseurs.
and when they buying stuff, man,
They're
and
connoisseurs.
especially if you buying it like us, you know, we don't really buy just to. I mean, we don't really sell to just someone random walking in on the street
Right,
that
right.
just want to buy an eighth of an ounce or something like that. You know, we for the most part we sell pounds and up. You know,
Yeah.
so we're either selling to people that's going to resell it, you know, for their profit, or it's going to go to a dispensary, or like I said, what's called a distribution warehouse. You know, so they are real particular in what they want to purchase. You know, because they don't want to piss their customers off to where they're
Of
gonna lose
course.
customers.
Of
So
course.
they gotta have the absolute best that they can find so they
Yeah.
can keep their customers, you know, happy and coming back.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't know why I didn't think about it like that before. I think I looked at weed like cigarettes. Like I've never heard someone say, "Let me look at your cigarette first." Even though I
Right.
understand it's a very different product because it's already the tobacco is already rolled up. You're not really looking at the product that's inside. You're kind of just looking at the outside. But I think for my novice mind, I just looked at it the same. Like nobody cares what a cigarette looks like. No one cares. You know what I mean? Like what I used to think no one cared what a cigar looked like, but I understood now. Like no, looking at it, you can see the quality of the leaves and the depth of flavor and the color, and I had no clue. So this is opening my eyes and probably a lot of people that are listening as well. Um, oh yeah, Rudy Ray said bag appeal. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's
A
absolutely
lot of
like
sense. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but that makes a ton of sense. Yeah,
yeah. Um, that bag of pills, that because like I said, they can see if it has seeds in it. They see the color,
yeah.
and if you turn the bag upside down and it has what's called a lot of shake, which is basically um, leftover residue, either from trimming, you know, or they're just real small, fine pieces, basically of
Of the
the
plant.
bud. Yeah, leaves and stuff like that. Your bag can't have a lot of shake in it. If it has a lot of shake in it, you're gonna have to come down on the price. You know, it gotta look, it gotta be perfect. You know, even though that weed still might be some good weed,
Yeah, yeah,
if it got this shake on the bottom of the bag, you know, and it ain't just straight buds in there,
yeah.
you know, that's gonna mess up uh,
Your
you
final,
being able to
final
sell
dollar.
it. And again, that's just for us, 'cause, you know, like I said, we sell pounds and up, you know, so
Yeah,
you know, dispensary and all that stuff, we don't really deal with all that, you know, because it's already in a jar. They probably, if they did get a bag with shake in it, they just took it out uh, before they put it in their containers or their jars that they're
huh.
using for display, you know, for people to come in and pick which ones they want.
Yeah.
But for us, yeah, bag appeal is very important
It got to be
for
right.
buyers.
It's got to be right. All right, my guy. Well, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much for teaching us a little something today. Thank y'all for in the chat, Jetty and Ray. Appreciate y'all
Hey,
for
Miss
jumping
Jetty.
in. Appreciate y'all for jumping in and asking some questions. My weed chemist here, the sensei I should call you, the weed sensei in my eyes. But that was exactly what I thought it would be. It was like eye opening, and of course you had an answer for everything because this is what you do. So um, hopefully you'll come back. Hopefully you'll come back.
Oh
We
yeah.
maybe get you on
Hey,
here
I,
with
I
some
had
other.
a ball, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. I'll get you on with some other connoisseurs. We can have an even more diverse conversation for some people that, maybe they grow at home, or maybe they've just been, maybe they were the ones that was like, yeah, I agree. I ain't buying nothing if ain't no purple in it. I think that could be a cool conversation as well.
Yeah, we got to get Ray on here. You know,
Yeah,
so
that'd be dope. That'd be
we can
dope.
pick his mind. I'm always interested in learning from other people in the industry and hearing, the things that they might do differently and stuff like that. Because, like I said, I'm still, as while I'm still in the industry, I'm still trying to learn
Yeah.
more and more about it and get better.
Yeah. And if it's
Always
changing,
trying to get better.
yeah,
So,
if
yeah.
And if it's changing as often as you're saying, which I believe you that it is, then I'm pretty sure there's going to be something that you being down here in Southern California may have information for Rooted Ray. And then him being in Northern California, he may have, you know what I mean? Because it could just, everything is about what you've been exposed to in the moment. So,
Uh,
um,
Let me give a shout out to Ray because even though Cali, they say Cali has some of the best weed,
mhm.
actually Northern California has the best weed in California.
Mhm.
Northern California always the best weed always came from Northern California. Humboldt, I don't know if you ever heard of Humboldt
Yep,
County,
right, Humboldt. Yep.
you know. So yeah, shout out to Ray up there in
Yeah,
Sacramento
he's
doing his
part of
thing.
that. Ray is part of that reason.
Yeah, yeah, he know all about it.
That's dope. Ray, if you still listening, hit me up directly. We'll get you on. I think that'll be awesome. I love the idea. So, all right, my guy, I appreciate you, man. I will holler at you soon, bro. Oh, hold on. Before I let you go, the way I gotta release you, I say pod is good. You say all the time. I'll say all the
Absolutely.
time, and you say pod is good. You got me?
I got you
All right, my guy. Pod is good,
all the time.
and all the time,
Pot is good.
my guy. I appreciate you, bro. I'll holler at you soon.
All right, bro. Love you, man.
All right, peace.
Peace.
All right, y'all. That is it. That was episode 59 of the Pod is Good podcast. Thank you. Thank you for sticking around to the end, listening to my man, oh man, the weed chemist, Jamal Howard. Me and him dialogue about this all the time, and I'm always telling him how much of a novice I am at knowing anything related to the whole cannabis world. But I understand it is a blossoming, pun intended, um, portion of our society, and I want to know. We are inquiring minds want to know. So I appreciate him for chiming in with us, staying, locked in with every question, giving his experience, his answers. Dope, dope. Um, Rooted Ray, thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate you for chiming in. I saw um, your last message says, "Much respect, fellas. Reach out. I'm always a student, but always down to share knowledge." I love that. That's how we all get better at anything. Really, that's kind of my point. I was saying is that there might just due to exposure and being in different areas, maybe there's something that one person knows or has dealt with that the other one hasn't. We all can teach each other, man. Sometimes my kids come home and tell me something. I'll be like, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? No one's above being taught, so I really love that and appreciate that mentality that you have, Ray. I think that's probably what makes you dope at what you do. I get it. With that being said, y'all, if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe to the channel, follow us, share it, like it, whatever you feel like doing. We appreciate it. It's all free. Just take a second to do it. It means a lot. I am Cashmere, California. Pot is good. And all the time. I'm going to get at y'all later. Peace.